a box of Pakistani scissors. Pakistan made shears, Pakistan sharpening. You wanted my opinion? Let's go for it. Now this is something really unusual. As you know, if you've been following my channel, I do a sharpening certification, the ISSA, the International Scissor Sharpeners Association. And in that I send a USA finish, Chinese steel, Chinese scissor that's finished in the USA, convex edge to sharpen, and then I also send a usually a from scissor. It's either USA or Taiwan or something, beveled edge, maybe even a German scissor. I never send Pakistani shears for the certification. I never train people on Pakistani shears for when they come in for training. We deal with a lot of Pakistani people in this business. Most of them that we deal with on a regular basis, and I'll tell you some of them, is Nina Inc. Taskim. He'll be teaching one of our classes for us at the Sharpeners Jam. I have a dear friend, Muhammad, and I know him and his whole family, and he's the one that provides our cases for us. And all our scissor cases, and we get our shear parts, a lot of shear parts that we sell from Pakistan. We get occasionally we might get our tweezers or nippers, never shears. And in the past I had a real prejudice against Pakistani made shears, and we're going to look at some today. Some of the companies I know really well, that I know are very reputable, and they're Pakistani, and they sell shears that are made in different countries, and they're close friends of ours that I would highly recommend. Have no problem with those. But then I get all these unsolicited emails and texts and even phone calls from people that are wanting me to buy their shears, so I'm just kind of like, don't want to see them, don't want to hear you. These are the people I deal with that are from Pakistan. I don't want to deal with anybody else. So I get these in the mail. And this is a totally different avenue. He has sharpened these. These are shears he bought in Pakistan. He sharpened these, and he says he would like me to look and evaluate his sharpening and maybe evaluate the shears. Now, way back when I met Muhammad that I mentioned before, and we've seen him a few other times because he'll come to the U.S. We saw him when we were in Germany, and because he's living in Europe now. He came and met us and took classes on how to sharpen shears, and it was mainly because they would hear me say sort of negative things about Pakistan shears. And he wanted to know what really was the difference. And he brought some over with him. And after we did the training, I said, okay, let's look at these inexpensive Chinese shears, and let's look at your Pakistan-made shears. And he said, you don't have to explain anymore. He says, I know enough now about sharpening, about shears. I know the difference. And I understand why you're not buying shears made in Pakistan. With that being said, I think the quality of the shears in Pakistan, I think, have improved. Unfortunately, when they do improve, they're usually not marked made in Pakistan. So we don't know that they've improved because a lot of the shears coming from Pakistan, they'll stamp them with whatever you want on them. And I've seen some coming from Pakistan that came to me unsolicited, that had name brands of famous brands of shears that was not the company that was supposed to be. So I want to take a look at these and try to keep an open mind about them, and take a look at the quality of the shears and the sharpening. As I said, we may eventually, we're looking at maybe carrying some dog grooming line. It would not be a Bonika brand, but it would be the brand from my friend Muhammad that may be bringing him in, that may be a lower end shear. But so far, and as I said, things change, but so far the cost of a shear made in China and a shear made in Pakistan, I'm getting, I can get much better quality for the money. But let's take a look at this and you look at it together and put your comments and your opinions down there. Be nice. Because I know sharpeners are very opinionated on some things, and tell me what you see. So he's asked me to look at his sharpening and look at the quality of the shears. Now he sent over a whole bunch of them. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to send them back or what I'm supposed to do with them, but all of them are beveled edges. And I was asking my friend Muhammad, and he was saying about that's basically what all the sharpening equipment they have there is for beveling edges, not for convexing. I'm sure that's not so. I'm sure they've got some for convexing. But what I want to look at is, first of all, his sharpening. And his ride line looks really nice. It's coming up to here. It's not going up the back. So it looks like he's putting his pressure in the right spot. And I just picked this one up at random. And this ride line looks pretty good. Now I haven't cut with any of them, but let's look at the sharpening first. I'm pretty impressed with the ride line. The ride line looks a little wider than what I normally see on shears. But once again, it's hard for me to know whether it's that the hollow is flatter. See, the hollow inside the shears, it's actually shovel shaped. And the more hollow it is, the thinner the ride line will be. Does that make sense? Whereas the flatter it is, the wider the ride line will be. So a wide ride line is not always the best. It can be sticky, but usually has nothing to do with the sharpening. It has to do with the way the shears are manufactured. This looks pretty nice. Now, it appears to me that ride was put on by machine and not by hand. Not on a, he said he sharpened them all by hand, but I mean, I'm thinking it was on a machine, not a stone. But the edge work, that's nice and crisp and sharp. I can't see anything wrong with it. I would love to see what he does with a convex edge. And I'll let you look at his edge work. And all of these shears are pretty consistent. I kind of pulled them all out earlier when they first came in and took a look at them. And I'm not seeing, say this one, the ride line is super wide here. But see, that's probably an alignment issue. So let's look at now the whole idea of Pakistan manufacturing. So typically what I see in the difference between shears made in Pakistan and other places, it's like the angle of that hollow is where the problem is. And you can kind of turn it back and forth to the light, and normally you're going to see like a nice shadow that's consistent here. And I'm not really seeing that on here. Let me put this light over here. Yeah, you probably can't see what I'm talking about, but it's but that has to do with that ride line being changing, and that has to do with the way the hollow is put in there. But I mean, I don't know what these shears cost. If the price was low enough, I mean, I would say, well, these are, these aren't bad. And what I'm looking at quality wise, I probably would be okay with using these for my beveled edge certification. I mean, it's so if he arranges for me to keep these might be the ones we use for beveled edge certification. Has that convex shape. If I was training somebody, I would probably say, well, that's, if it was a better shear, that could very well be convexed. But these, you see how these are so flat in here. That area right there, these would be beveled. So let's see how they're cutting. And just in looking at them, I'm expecting all of them to cut well. Yep. Yeah, that was my paper falling, not the shears. Yeah, these are all cutting well. So for beveled edges, these are really not that bad. The quality of the shears are better than what I've been seeing coming from Pakistan. But the sharpening looks good. As far as the quality of the Pakistan scissors, depending on what the price is, they look as good as something I would be buying from China for maybe like maybe $8 or $10 each. It kind of give you an idea. The screw, the hardware, this is not a split screw, so it's just a regular screw. Hard bumper, so it's not an expensive bumper. This is a little bit more expensive screw, but it's the hard bumper. People usually like a softer bumper, so. But I appreciate him sending these to me. As I said, I was a little curious about it, and this was a little different approach about getting shears to me. As far as bevel edge sharpening, if this was of course I don't know what they look like beforehand, but if this was an ISSA certification, I'd say, yeah, you passed the beveled edge. I would love to see how he does a convex edge. And he definitely seems to have a real joy in sharpening and a gift at it. So I encourage him to go on and explore sharpening convex edge shears as well. So I guess the bottom line is I'm seeing a step up in the Pakistan made shears, and I wish for everybody and every country to become better and better and better in making shears, because that makes our job easier as sharpeners, and it makes the hairstylists, the dog groomers, and the barbers' jobs easier as well. So yeah, it's moving in the right direction.